Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum, ba-dum-bum-bum-ba-dum. Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1253. What's on your list for 2023? Oh, it kind of rhymed. I know I'm having a crazy day. It's been one of those days where it's kind of been quiet, then it's been a little steady, and then it's been quiet again. And yeah, got groceries done and all that sort of thing. But I was like, and I apologize for being on so late. This is what happened. It was awesome. Yes. So Zephy and I went out for our evening stroll and had a blast with that. And while we're out for our stroll, it's kind of dark and we're just wandering around. But Zephy was in let's get this walk done mode. She was almost running. I was power walking next to her. So we had a really, really good walk. We didn't meet anybody along the way. She was just like business. And so we had this awesome, awesome walk. We got back here and it was like an hour and a half ago. It was close. It was just after 6 o'clock when we got back here. And I thought, I've got an hour before the thing. What am I going to do? And I was in the bedroom and I thought, I'll get changed into my nightshirt. I thought, no, hang on, I can't do that. I've got the live coming up. Oh, and so then Zephy sort of like comes in, and then I thought, and she gets up on the bed, and so I'm sitting there on the bed. She gets up there with me, and I'm like, you just want to lay down and we'll just have a snuggle for a bit. We haven't done that for a while. And she seemed to be open to that idea. And then I'm laying down, of course, the lights are on, and I'm like, I don't really like those lights being on right now. That means I've got to get up to turn them off. And I thought, I'm going to do that. And I thought, I know what I'll do. And so we have one of those round things that has a light in it that shines nebulas and stars and just different cloudy colors and stuff onto the into the room. And it's just, it's like about yay big. I can't remember what it's called. Well, I'll find it and I'll put the link in the description below. But it's really cool. And so I thought I'll put that on. And then when it's like, and then it's really quiet. And I thought, I need music to go with it. So I pull up my Calm app and found one called the Milky Way. And I thought, well, that's appropriate. We've got the stars above us. It's dark. We'll put that on. So we're putting that on, and I'm laying there, and Zephy's laying next to me, so I'm able to give her scratches and things. And she just kind of stretches up and rolls away. And I'm like, okay, she's had her snuggle time. I thought I'll read for a little bit. And the next thing I know is my phone's going off because my mum had sent me her daily text. And I was like, oh, so I reply to her text. And I look at the time and went, oh, time to get moving. So every now and again, it's like, and I thought, it is what it is. And that's how it's going to be. You've got to take, when your body says rest, rest. When your body said, come on, I've got energy to burn, let's get going. Go do that stuff that requires that energy, whether it's mental energy, physical energy. Just go do whatever it is you need to do to get rid of that excess energy. My body obviously said, we need some rest. I went, okay. Just in a slightly different way. But it was just nice just to lay there and have the stars and the nebulas, just doing it does this rotating thing. It's just really cool. And then having that music playing that was called the Milky Way. And it just added something extra to the star thing. And it was really hard to keep your eyes awake open. So thanks, Mum, for your timely text. And I have to say, it's my dad's birthday in New Zealand today. So happy birthday, Dad. I've been blessed with the most amazing parents, and I love celebrating their birthdays and stuff. And because their next birthday, I know, my dad says this is probably going to go, it's a year away, but I haven't told them this yet. Actually, maybe I should tell them first. Yeah, I'm not going to do surprises. I'm not going to do anything because their next birthdays, my mum's birthday at the end of the year, my dad's birthday next January, are going to be milestone birthdays. And I think because of the milestone birthday that I just think I might have to go down to New Zealand for a little bit and celebrate some birthdays. And unfortunately, Christmas falls in between the two birthdays. So but I'm still thinking on that one because it means I'll be down there for like 3 weeks. And so, yeah, that will be, yeah. But I think because my parents are going to be turning 80, Mum will be 80 in December, Dad will be 80 next January, that I think a trip down to New Zealand is called for, just to celebrate the people that they are, and just and I'm not going to do it as a surprise. I have already declared I am not going to do it. I'm the queen of surprises in my family, and I've surprised my parents enough over the years. We did a surprise birthday when they turned 50. We did a surprise party when they had their 30th wedding anniversary. In fact, my mum was refusing to walk into the room. So I've turned up early, turned up 24 hours early in New Zealand. Although the last time I did a surprise, my brother didn't know I was coming. That was Christmas of 2018. And my parents were completely in on that one, but it was really hard for my mum because she wasn't allowed to say anything to anybody in case word got back to my brother. And so when we went to church, after I got down there and we went to church, we surprised my brother the day before on the Saturday, and we went to church on Sunday. And my parents introduced me around to their friends and all of that. They go, I didn't know your daughter was coming. And she goes, no, neither did we. We only found out about it a few days ago, and we had to keep it quiet because she wanted to surprise her brother. And so that was the story of how I got to New Zealand last time. That was kind of fun. That's when I flew on Fiji Airways, which was actually a really cool flight. And it turned out the girl I was sitting next to was from Mexico, and she could speak English, but she couldn't read it very well. So she asked if I would help her fill out her customs card to get into Fiji. I went, sure. And when she showed me her passport, we were both born the same year, and she was a day older than me. But then later on, when I thought about it with the timeline difference, because she would have been in Mexico, I would have been in New Zealand. So in Mexico on the day that she was born, I was being born in New Zealand on the same day. So it would have come down to what time. So it's kind of freaky when you come across things like that. It comes down to, well, hang on. If you're in the US, if you're born in Mexico and you're born in New Zealand and you're a day apart on the date, when you actually think about it, because of the timeline, it's actually the same day. So I'll let you think on that one. But anyway, so tonight I thought, what's on your list? Because I've been sitting here, one of the things I have been gradually doing, because I had so much fun doing the James Bond Fest, which I have fun doing that every November. Then I did my Christmas fest, and I was getting into these like movie fests. And I thought, oh, what's the next movie fest I can do? And I thought classical movies would be a good one to do. From like the 30s through to the early 60s or something like that. I don't know. I haven't fully defined it yet, but I want black and white movies. There may be some color ones thrown in there because the only version I can find now is the colorized ones. But I actually, then I came up with another list as well. So I've been writing down, as thoughts come to me, I've been writing them down. So what things have you been jotting down on your lists? Think of things of where do you want to go? What experiences do you want to have in 2023? Where do you want to go? Do you want to stay where you are? Do you want to go visiting? Who do you want to go visit? Do you want to go traveling? Where do you want to go traveling to? What experiences do you want to have this year? What books do you want to read? You've got if you're like me, you've got that stack of books or stack of digital books on your Kindle or reader program or whatever. You actually have, like a stack of books that are sitting there. This is one for the January's Mystery Club. We're reading Stranger Diaries. This lively whodunit keeps you guessing until the end. I'm sort of like, awesome. Let's see, what's this? I don't even know what it's about. All I knew is that we're reading it. Claire Cassidy, a high school teacher specializing in the Gothic writer R.M. Holland, is no stranger to murder. But when one of Claire's colleagues is found dead with a line from Holland's iconic story, The Stranger, left by her body, Claire is horrified to see her life collide with her favorite literature. The police suspect that the killer is someone Claire knows. Unsure whom to trust, she turns to her diary, her only outlet for her suspicions and fears. Then one day she notices something odd. Writing that isn't hers, left on the page of her old diary. Hello, Claire. You don't know me. Claire becomes even more certain than ever the stranger has come to terrifying life, but can the ending be rewritten in time? And I thought, well, that's going to sound really, it sounds really good. But I've got to the end of the month to read this one because we meet the 4th Saturday of the month, I think it is, 3rd, 4th. I have time to read it. And even when I opened it and I saw it was tiny writing, I was like, we're definitely going to get started on that one. So anyway, so I know everybody has books piled up, has their reading list. So what books off there, and some of them are nonfiction, some of them are fiction. Which ones are you going to read this year? If you're like me, you've got a notebook of books. You have a notebook of books that have been recommended over time, and every now and again I go through it and I'm like, what do I feel like reading? Oh, yeah, what was this one about? So then I've got to go look it up. So I'm now remapping how I do my book lists. Not only will I have the name and the author of the book, but I'll put a little synopsis there of what the book's about, so that if that synopsis intrigues me, I will go read it. So yeah, I'm trying to think of ways that I can catalog this. But and then what other things do you want to do? And do you want to buy a house? Do you want to buy a car? Do you want to sell up everything and go living on the road in an RV or a converted van? Or do you want to it totally just left my head right now. There's things out there that you want to do. What do you want to do in 2023? Do you have them written down on what you want to do in 2023 so that you can check them off as you accomplish each one? What is the first step you have to take for the first? If you want to go traveling, where do you want to go traveling? Oh, I want to go to Europe. Okay, what's the first step to go to Europe? Well, we need to figure out where in Europe we want to go. Okay, why are we going to Europe? Oh, we're going to go, maybe you're going over there to trace your ancestry roots and visit places your ancestors came from, which is always a good thing to do, because it gives you, when you're, if you can go and visit places your ancestors came from, it gives you more of a connection to that area. And not only that, you learn more about the area, about the history, about with the time that your ancestors lived there. What was happening? Was there an upheaval? Was there a disturbance? Was there a scandal? These could all be reasons why your ancestors left and moved elsewhere in the world or to another part of the country. So being able to trace your ancestors' footsteps is kind of really cool. And I always remember the only ancestral places I have visited are the areas where my grandparents and great-grandparents were raised and born in New Zealand. And I have been, only seen from the street the houses that they lived in as kids and that sort of thing. Or as we've driven past an area, my parents will start up with stories, that sort of stuff. So it always makes the trips interesting and that sort of thing. But there's just something about the places when you actually visit them. And there's this one place in Dunedin where my maternal grandfather grew up. And it's this little dead-end street. You go up this very steep street, not the steepest street, but you go up a very steep street. And you take a turn towards the end, and there's this little street that's got, a couple of houses on it. And the house that he grew up is right there. And so it was really cool when my parents took us past to see that. Then they drove, Dad went down the end of the street, turned around, we went past the house, we paused, we had a look at it. And then we drove to the end of the street and we took a right and went up to the corner to do I'm not sure where we were going at that point. And there was this very tall hedge. And over the top of this hedge, I could see this guy's face. And back in the 70s, there was this British comedy called The Sykes, Sykes, The Sykes. And it was about this brother and sister that lived together, in their golden years type of thing. They're living together. And it was just slapstick comedy. It was just a great show. And they had this policeman there called Corky. And I remember seeing, and they were always, Corky was always a regular at their house for one reason or another. And I remember when we turned right, and so my grandfather's house was here. We went to the corner. We turned right, and this house up here, so one up from his street on the next corner, there was this guy looking over the fence, and I was, that looks like Corky from Sykes, the policeman. And he had the little round spectacles and the long face, and it looked like him. And so we were later at my grandparents' place, I don't know, a few weeks later, a few days later, I don't remember. close to the time that we had been in this area. And so I was telling my grandfather, telling my papa about how we had gone down to Dunedin. We had seen his house that he was raised in. And I said, and then we went around the corner, and that a house on the corner there, and I showed him, kind of map where it was. So there was this guy looking over the thing, and he looks like Corky from Sykes. And my grandfather looked at me and he says, do you know what his last name is? I went, no. He says his last name's Sykes. And I went, no. He looked like Corky from Sykes. And my grandfather had to tell me that, no, this guy's last name was actually Sykes. And I'm like, really? He said, yeah. And had you gotten out of parked the car, gotten out and gone and knocked on his door and told him who you were, and he would have invited you in for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, wow. So you never know what stories you're going to find out. You never know who you're going to meet along the way, or what interesting tidbits you will pick up along the way. So I always remember that one from visiting that area. And then and then his wife, my grandmother, lived in a house in Wellington, in one of the suburbs there. And we never actually drove past it, but we stopped down the hill where you could look up and see it sitting on the hill. Because I think if I remember correctly, the road, if you go past it, you can't see the house because it's down on the hill. But we went across this road, my mother would point it out to us. And the one story I remember about that house that my grandmother grew up in is that my mum told me that when my second great grandmother had just been over to Australia, visited her son, who was in prison at the time, and had come back, and had a few days after she came back, she died, and in the house. And you're probably thinking, okay, that's a little creepy, but it's the story doesn't end there. So what they did in those days is they had to lay the body out, and the dining table was not long enough to fit my second great grandmother on it. And my grandmother at the time was probably around 11. And so what they did is they took the pantry door off, laid it on the table, and then laid my second great grandmother on this thing so they could lay her out and prep her for burial. And I'm just like, okay, that's kind of a little creepy, but it's a really cool story, but it's kind of a little creepy. So I said, you never know what stories are going to come out on different things and different stories and things like that. So it's always fun to go and go back and visit places that your ancestors came from and find out something about the history. Find somebody who knows the history of the area, may even know the history of your family being there at the time. And, there could be stories that are passed down. You can go visit the local libraries in their local, some libraries will have like a local area within the library where they keep local newspapers, local magazines, local books written by local people. That's all within that community, about that community and things. And you may even find that's where you may find societies and organizations within the area where they keep their minutes, where their minutes are stored and that sort of stuff too. So there's all sorts of fun things that you can find. And so if you're thinking of going traveling in the footsteps of your ancestors, learn about the ancestors that lived in that area, when they lived in that area. If you can find the address that they lived at, find that address, go look it up. Even try looking at it on Google. Even though Google's more modern day maps, you can still go and have a look and see if the house is still there. There's been some that I've been looking for people in New York, and I type in the address and it'll put you at an intersection because that house number no longer exists. There's something else that's been, like there was one where it set you on an intersection and you could roughly tell where the house would have been, but there's now like a shopping mall there. So being able to look at stuff like that as well. So, go look at those things. Go find out the addresses. How do you find the addresses? Census reports. Look up the census reports because it has the street name there, the house number, the family, and then they get given a family number, which is the order in which the families were enumerated. You can also look up city directories. Are they in there with their address? Even look up newspapers. If it's in the 1800s, the early 1900s and stuff, look at newspapers. Are they mentioned in a newspaper? Because it might turn around and say, hey, they died at home. Here's their address. Or this couple are now going to be living at this address. Or this person was released from hospital and went home to this address. So you can find out, I don't know. The newspapers just absolutely fascinate me. What other things are you going to do this year? Is there a hobby that you like, that you've got a convention or a seminar coming up that you want to go and visit? I've already gone through all my my genealogy classes that I did last year. What are they offering this year? And am I going to attend? And I'm not doing the one at the end of January because I've got a very busy February. I was calculating today, and I think I'm actually going to be working in one of my jobs. I'm going to be working maybe, I think it's 8 days in the entire month of February. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in February. So the class in January, I thought I'm not going to do the week-long class in January because that takes me out for an entire week. And then I'm going to be away the following, and then I'm away the following week, and then back for a couple of days, and then I'm off for a couple of days, and then I'm off for another week. And yeah, it's just a mess. So having to look ahead to see when events are and getting them on your calendar now. Which ones do you want to go to? Get them on your calendar now. So I was looking ahead and thinking, okay, so looking at my movie fest going, what sort of movie fest am I going to do? Classics. I'm going to do one on classics. And I've even written down movies that I have that could probably fall into those ranges. Things like North by Northwest, Strangers on a Train, The Out-of-Towners, An Affair to Remember, Sorry, Wrong Number, Rear Window. Rear Window is one of my favorite ones. Dial M for Murder, To Catch a Thief, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, and Lawrence of Arabia. So guess Casablanca, Gone with the Wind. Oh, Casablanca I've already seen before. Gone with the Wind and Lawrence of Arabia. I have never, ever seen those movies. I have seen a little snippet here and there over the years, but I have never seen the movies. So I am actually, because of the length of the movies, I'm actually going to book them into my calendar on a Sunday to watch them. Because I figure that's the only way I'm going to get them in, because they're not going to work on an evening one. No. How to Marry a Millionaire. Although I think that, yeah, that one's okay. Yeah, How to Marry a Millionaire. I love that one. It's got Marilyn Monroe, Betty Gable, and a Jane or a Jean. Can't remember, but it's a cool story. It's a cool story if you haven't seen that one. Funny Face, My Fair Lady, Paris When It Sizzles, Roman Holiday, Sabrina, War and Peace, Some Like It Hot. Although Some Like It Hot, I'm not watching during Classic Festival, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Around the World in 80 Days, and that's the one with David Niven from like the 1950s. It's a mad, 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 mad world. And then I thought, okay, what musicals can we watch? And I want some of the classical musicals in there. So I've got Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Robin and the Seven Hoods. And if you have not seen Robin and the Seven Hoods, this is a movie that has Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. in it. Excuse me. And they're gangsters during Prohibition. And it's just a really, really funny story. And there's lots of singing and dancing in it. And they're basically gangsters. It's just... And of course, they've got the rival gangs as well. So, and then they have their illegal dance hall / bar area that when the police come calling, very cleverly converts. I'm not going to tell you what it converts into. So Robin and Seven Hoods, Sound of Music, Hello Dolly, Oklahoma, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, State Fair, Singing in the Rain, one of my favorites. The King and I, another good favorite. I love those big hoop dresses that she dances around in. Top Hat, Some Like It Hot, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, Half a Sixpence. Now, Half a Sixpence, I actually own the movie. I have seen it a couple of times, but I first saw Half a Sixpence as a stage play back in the 1970s, and it had one of my favorite on-stage actors playing the role at the time. His name was Rob Guest. And Rob Guest went on to be the longest-running Phantom in Phantom of the Opera. And I can't remember how many shows he actually did before they finally closed the show down. But he was in Sydney, based in Sydney and Australia. And I went over one weekend to watch him in Phantom of the Opera, and he was amazing. I hadn't seen him on stage since... Actually, it would have been Half a Sixpence, because I saw him in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Then I saw him in Half a Sixpence, and that was the last play on stage that I saw him, or musical I saw him in, until I saw him in Phantom of the Opera. So that movie has a little bit of sentimental value because he's since passed away. He passed away a few years ago from a massive stroke, and he was only in his 50s, really, really young. And apparently his father died around the same age as well, which is a great loss to the theatre community, because he was what was the play that he was in production? He was actually on stage. He was playing the wizard. I think it was the Wiz. Oh, what's that? No, it wasn't the Wiz. It was something to do with the Wizard of Oz. Where you get to meet all the characters before Dorothy comes to Oz. Is it called the Wiz? I can't remember, but I know he's playing the wizard. Anyway, let's see. White Christmas, Brigadoon, Guys and Dolls, Carousel, West Side Story, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, another one of my favorites. Mary Poppins, that's another one. Mame, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, Beauty and the Beast, Funny Girl, Finnan's Rainbow, can't read my own handwriting, Camelot, My Fair Lady. Didn't I already have that one? Oh, I said that on the other one. Young Ones, Summer Holiday, Gigi, and Funny Face. Didn't I? Oh, that was Funny Girl. So those are just a couple of movie fests I'm going to do throughout the year. I've got the classicals and I've got the musicals. If you can think of one that should be on that list as well. And then I may do ones like adventures, where you do ones, and adventures would include like in the Indiana Jones series. What other adventure ones have I got? I've got to go through my list of DVDs because I got too many. But I figured, these are names that just came to me. Some of them I already have, some of them I don't. Some of them I may end up renting or seeing if they're available on one of the channels that I have, which is always good if it is, because then it doesn't cost me anything because it's included in my membership. Well, actually, it costs me my membership, but yeah, that's another story. Yeah, so looking at, I'm just seeing if I wrote anything else down. So I'm actually going through my movies right now and listing them out so I can start thinking, oh, that would be really good in a adventure thing. That would be good in a mystery one. That'll be good in a thriller. That'll be good in a comedy, and doing different for my different movie fests, because I think I just might do those throughout the year. Not sure if I will get through them all, but the idea is to have a movie fest, and because I've always loved movies, and just to sit and watch them. But I have to get but in order to be, those are my rewards for the day. I like, a lot of people like to have competition. So if they turn around and say, hey, we've got this event coming up, and the person who does the most of this gets this, and people are like, yeah, let's go for it. I'm not interested in those. I will compete with myself. Can I get this list done by the end of the day so I can watch this? This is if I don't meet this deadline to get this stuff done by, so if I finish the stuff after the deadline and before the movie start in time, it don't get watched. It's as simple as that. Here is my deadline. If it is not completed before the deadline, I don't get to watch whatever movie I had scheduled to watch that week. If it was part of a movie fest, if it was just, if it was part of a movie fest, that's another one I can do. Books converted to movie, books and film. What would you call that one? The ones where there'll be ones that are based on movies based on true stories, and I'm also going to do movies based on books. Yes, there's another two I can do. So you can make up a movie fest on anything you like. You could do a movie fest on, for an actor like Harrison Ford. I'm going to watch all the Harrison Ford movies, do a Harrison Ford fest. Like I do a James Bond fest. It could be on a character. You could do a Jack Ryan fest. No. Yes. I got to remember my Jacks. You do a Jack Ryan fest where you've got the Tom Clancy, it's all the Tom Clancy stuff. You've got that series you can do. There's the Bourne series with Bourne Identity, Bourne Supremacy, Bourne Ultimatum, Jason Bourne, and there's another Bourne one, Bourne Legacy. You could do that. And those are all movies based on, the first 3 movies are all based on books. If you didn't know them, they're about this thick. Paperback about this thick. Ask me how I know, because I've read them all. I can do a North and South trilogy, the North and South trilogy. It's like 20 DVDs. There's a lot of viewing in that one. And and those books, paperback, about this thick. Ask me how I know. I've read all three. And that's another one that's, based on a book. Movies like Pride and Prejudice. You do the classic books that have been converted. Well, Around the World in 80 Days will go into that as well. Some movies end up in two different fests. It doesn't matter. My fests, my rules, as my friend Deborah would say about her conference. She always says about the Leverage conference. My conference, my rules. So my fests, my movie fests, my rules. But yeah, so I gamify it for myself that if I don't get a to-do list finished by a certain time, I am not allowed to watch a movie that evening. Movies are off the table. And since I like my movies so much, I try to get as much done as I can. But I'm still making sure, and part of my to-do list is making sure I get all my work done, not just for all my clients. I get all my client stuff done, everything out of the way as well. So that means those that I'm planning, where I'm doing the Before the Dirt Nap Adventures, got to get that stuff done as well. My genealogy stuff done, my VA stuff done, whatever it is I'm working on at the time, everything for that day has to be done before I take Zeffy for a walk in the evening. And if it's not done before I take Zeffy for a walk, which is usually around between 5 and 6, if it's not done by 6 o'clock, no movie that evening, because we start movies at 8. So like now. But anyway, I'm out of here. What fun activities are you planning for this year? Are you planning on doing any traveling, experiencing new things? What are you wanting to read? What are you wanting to watch? What are you wanting to do? Are you looking at taking up a new craft? Are you looking at doing classes in a hobby that you have and a passion that you have in your career, or in your business? Are there certain classes that you want to take? What is inspiring you in 2023 to get up, get out, and do stuff? And yes, my movie fest is sitting here on my butt, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on before I get to watch a movie. So I have my list of stuff that has to be done before I watch a movie, and then that's my reward. And sometimes I'll be watching a movie, and it'll be a movie I've seen like 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And I may sit there and color or do some knitting or crochet or cross stitch, depending what time of the year it's in. But I still first have to teach my dog that when I'm crocheting or knitting, the ball of yarn is not to be played with. She's like a cat when it comes to balls of yarn. I tried crocheting one time and spent more time fighting her off the ball of yarn than I did I think I probably got 5 stitches done that day. I spent the rest of the time having to hide the yarn of wool and not letting her near it. But yeah, she suddenly decided she wanted to be a cat and play with the ball of yarn. Anyway, I'm out of here. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening around 6 p.m. Pacific time, I think. Hang on. It's Thursday. Nope, we're good. We're good. Just double checking. Now, where did my button go? There's my button. Hey, Conetta.